Well, despite the Patriots' 22-12 loss to the Dolphins on Sunday, there were a few bright spots, and we're just going to talk about them. I'm Mariah, Janos, joined by Evan Lazar. Evan, I want to start with Jakobi Meyers. We've talked about the Patriots receiving core and how these young receivers are good, but on any other team, they wouldn't be a number one receiver and maybe not even a number two receiver. But so where do you see Jakobi Meyers and his future with the organization and his position?
Well, I definitely think he has a future with this team, which I wouldn't say is true for all the wide receivers currently on the roster. And you look at his last 9 games, starting with that San Francisco game, which is right when he really started to play more. He's on pace right now in those 9 games to have 85 catches for 1,083 yards, a 1,000-yard season, if that was how he played for his 16 full games. So that's a really impressive clip. And I think when you look at Jakobi Meyers, in this offense, assuming that it's going to be relatively similar to what we've seen over the last 2 decades, I think he's your number 2 option, just like Julian Edelman, just like Wes Welker, just like those slot guys of the past. So this is not necessarily the same style of offense that you get other places where your slot guy or your inside receiver is necessarily number 2 on your pecking order, but they're so good at scheming those guys open and getting those guys opportunities in the middle of the field. I think this Patriots offense, they kind of position that slot receiver just a little bit different than maybe other places do on the hierarchy or on the pecking order. So if they can go out there and they can get an Allen Robinson or a Kyle Pitts or a Corey Davis, and I know we're talking about guys that maybe are dream scenarios, but if they can get into a position where they have a guy above Jakobi Meyers on that pecking order and then he falls into that number 2 spot, I think you could do a whole lot worse, and I think the Patriots would be in pretty good position moving forward as an offense.
Absolutely. Patriots Press Pass is presented by Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code PressPass20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using the code PressPass20. Take the leap and join the Manscaped movement today. Now, I want to talk about Sony Michel. Obviously, Damien Harris was out yet on Sunday, so we saw a lot more of him than we've seen in recent games or at all this season, really. 74 yards rushing. Now, if Sony continues to play this well, what do you expect the Patriots to do with him and Damien Harris? Because I feel like Damien Harris has kind of solidified himself in this offense more than Sony Michel has.
I definitely think Damien Harris is still the guy. He's still a more explosive ball carrier than Sony Michel and more capable. I think Sony is a pretty good runner, but I think Damien Harris is more capable of hitting that home run, right? He takes a 16-yard run for Sony, and maybe it's, a 30-yard run for somebody like Damien Harris. And I think that's a big difference between the two guys, is that explosiveness and that extra gear that Damien Harris seems to possess. But at the same time, Sony's averaging over 6 yards per touch right now this season. And since Damien Harris kind of took that job, every time Sony gets an opportunity, he runs really, really hard, and he runs really well. Yesterday, he was the Patriots' highest graded offensive player in the entire game, according to PFF, even higher than Jakobi Meyers. So that was a really good game by Sony, and in a lot of ways, especially an offense that probably is still going to be pretty run heavy moving forward, regardless of who the quarterback is. It's not a bad problem to have a 2-headed monster in the backfield for a couple of years. So that seems to be where they're heading, is that they're going to keep both of these guys around, kind of, split up some of the carries here or there. Somebody gets hurt, the next guy steps up, just what's happened all season long. Sony got hurt, Damien Harris went in. Damien Harris is now hurt, Sony goes in. And that's a good problem to have, I think, for a team, especially that wants to be able to establish a running game and have that be a part of their offense.
And I think Damien Harris coming in kind of like you said, Sony Michel is running harder every opportunity he gets. It was kind of a wake-up call, a little kick in the butt Absolutely. For him to realize, this is my job that's on the line. And so it's nice to see this production out of him and to see that he's really woken up and is rising to the occasion. For all of our Patriots coverage, head to clnsmedia.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel over at Patriots Press Pass. Ho, ho, ho.